After the few days of rest in the city of Oubliette, Sybil is walking through the tight tunnels and caverns of the dungeons with a new vigor and curiosity. She's still scared and cautious, moving through these tunnels alone with no one but the small little offensive ice rookling friend that has refused to leave her side, now having multiple icy blades and bristles kind of coming out from its body to protect her. But they make a good team. We get a short montage of them moving through enormous caverns and large underground rivers held up by these columns and ornate pillars, and places underground glowing in that bioluminescence, and other places pitch black, but a torch in one hand. Sybil and the rookling make their way through. At one point, we see them pausing, stopping, resting, as Sybil catches her breath and takes a sip of water beneath one of those gates that we saw right before the electric defensive rookling wandered into the labyrinth in a previous episode. But now she has the time to investigate and appreciate these gates. We're not using the spirit stat from Kyodana, but something about this just fills Sybil with an awe of exploration. And she is not a young woman anymore, but she still has plenty of strength and desire to learn and push herself. Not only that, she has to get back to the surface, so she's not sure where she's going. And the montage of travel continues a little longer before she finds an enormous, massive rook that appears to be inert, what is known as a rook husk, and it is chained to the wall of the dungeon. Cautiously, Sybil and the rookling approach and begin investigating, walking through its many small, cramped rooms and larger rooms within this massive rook that has been chained and long since gone dormant. And they find a key in where normally a rookling would have powered this thing. When they pull the key, they hop back down and kind of look to either side, say, hey, where should we go? When a croak, a raspy voice, calls out, echoing through the chamber near this massive chained rook, and Sybil hears, Is somebody there, please? Somebody? Sybil and the rookling rush to follow the noise, try and find it, echoing through this massive rook, this area, and before long they do find a person who is similarly chained to the wall. Except their chains are not made of metal or stone or anything physical. Their chains appear to be spectral. Sybil looks down at this person and says, What is this? How am I supposed to get you out of this? I can pick a lock. If this was a physical, are you okay? And the person says, I will be, if you can get me out, please. Please try and find a way. I've been here for days. I'm exhausted, I'm thirsty. Please, anything you can do. Sybil begins to rifle through her pack from her labyrinth kit that she just recently bought in Oubliette, and she pulls out the water to hand this person a drink, and she's putting these things down on the ground. She's going through her tools, looking at this spectral chain, unsure of what it even is made of, if it can be interacted with, anything. And as soon as she goes to investigate it, I think that Sybil walks forward and puts her hand, tries to grab the chain, but it goes right through it, and when it does, she feels something. Not a physical something, a temperature change, a vibration that goes through her fingers where it passes through this spectral chain. Something strange. It reverberates down, and the wall that Sybil saw this person chained to, she thought was just a dead end, but it turns out to actually be almost illusory. It continues far deeper. And all of a sudden that chain goes taut. This spectral chain tightens and pulls, and this person's eyes go wide as emerging far down a tunnel in the distance. It appears pitch black, but then Sybil can see it as it glows, a spectral rook, ghostly, wispy, glowing, emerges, and its head, its enormous spectral body, begins to become visible as it pulls this chain. It looks at Sybil, but it does not do anything. And then the chain goes tight, and this person, we just hear their scream as they are pulled down this hall into the darkness, and the spectral rook disappears once again into the walls, into the floor, nowhere to be seen. Sybil looks down at the rookling and says, "Why does everybody need rescuing?" And they start running down this tunnel. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of November here on the Rene Plays Games podcast. I'm going to keep the announcements nice and short. I think I'm smooth sailing from here on out for the rest of the year. I have my interviews already recorded. The Colostle series is going to take us into next year, and I have some ideas about things I'd like to do and change about the format, but as we have 2 months left, I'm going to keep doing things the way we've been doing things for almost 2 years now, which is crazy. But you know the format at this point. Next week is a Perspective Checks interview with Craig Hattler, a IT software person, also game designer, who came on to talk about UI, UX in games, kind of the player-facing approach to design to make sure that people can understand your rules. You have appropriate aids and different handouts and things like that to help just clarify and get people playing the system as quickly as possible so they can begin understanding it and having fun with it. We had a great chat. I hope that you enjoy it. Colostle will continue through the end of the year, and as of right now, I don't have a plan for the 4th week. Those have just become we'll sees. So, nice short and sweet this time. Let's play some more Colostle and see where that tunnel leads. A little peek behind the screen here as we start this episode. I flipped the 3 cards for my exploration phase before I hit record to do that intro and got 3 cards that I used. We got a gate, we got a stranger that had been chained up, and we got another card that I threw away because we drank from our goblet of divining at the beginning of this exploration phase, aka at the end of last episode, and I get to choose any one prompt from the labyrinth tables that I want, exploration tables that I want. I'm getting ahead of myself. Do you know what I chose? I chose a labyrinth, obviously, for a number of reasons. One, we have that rookstone key, a rare key, labyrinth treasure, which allows us to add a room to the next labyrinth where we will find a unique rookstone, which is tied to Sybil's calling. It is something that she has believed in since childhood. Her mother told her stories of unique rookstones beyond the common ones that are found up in the roomlands of the Colossal that are used for everything, and she has not only already found one, but heard of another, and she is looking for them now. This is changing everything about her worldview, being down here in the dungeons. Presumably everybody up in the city of Parapet probably thinks Sybil is long dead and gone, but she's going to find a way back, and maybe she's going to use these unique rookstones to do it. So we are going to do another labyrinth in this episode, which I think plays well into what just happened with that chained stranger. They just got pulled by a spectral rook down a tunnel to who knows where, and that's going to lead us into a labyrinth. My question is this a major labyrinth? Or are we just going to do another minor labyrinth like we did in a previous episode? We've done one of each at this point. Let's see. I think I'm just going to ask the Oracle. First, we will flip a card and consult the Roomland's generic Oracle. Red's no, black yes, let's see. A 6 of clubs is a yes, and it's right in the middle, so it's just a flat yes. This is a major labyrinth. Oh, that is very exciting. So I guess the next question is, which major labyrinth is it? Now, in the Dungeons book, it says anytime you encounter a labyrinth in the exploration phase prompts in the tables, you can just choose to have it be a major labyrinth. I wanted to leave it a little more up to the fates here for that, but then in the major labyrinths page, there is a card draw that can determine which of the major labyrinths you are going to be visiting. We've already done Major Labyrinth 2, the cistern, that is what we fell into, so let's go ahead and flip a card, and as long as we don't get a 2 through 4, we'll find out which one we find. Oh, that's a big one. That's a King of Hearts. I don't even know if this one's accessible. Pause for checking. Well, it is, and it is an interesting one, as this is not so much a labyrinth, but this is a discovery. And I think it's a cool one for the purposes of this little scenario we've set up here with this spectrally chained prisoner. So, as Sybil and the rookling are rushing down this tunnel, they quickly skid on their heels to stop and see that it ends with almost just like a sinkhole, like a straight down chasm or shaft that falls down into inky blackness. Undeterred, Sybil takes her torch and just tosses it and watches it fall down this shaft until it clears, and all of a sudden the light illuminates a much larger area and falls and hits the ground in this large underground cavern. And she's not sure how far out from Oubliette she is. She can't imagine this isn't something that has been discovered or what have you, but she begins taking out her rope, and she's going to use some of her inventor cards, the component cards that we've gotten from our inventor job pack additional rules, just to make something, because I haven't done that yet. So we're going to use the crank, the bucket, and the gyroscope along with the rope from her labyrinth kit to create a sort of pulley system to go up and down this chasm. Sybil and the rookling hop in the bucket using the rope and the pulley and the crank and kind of just slowly descend down into this much larger opening. When they get down there, I'm going to once again ask the Oracle a question. Have people from Oubliette been here? Because I can't imagine, again, Sybil got too far. That is an 8 of spades, which is another just flat yes. People from Oubliette have been here. So I think that there is a reflection of that. Let's see, are there people there now? I'm just going to keep flipping cards for the Oracle. This is a Jack of Hearts. So that is a red card, which is a no, but it is a high card, which means no, but there is an upside. And because of the nature of this labyrinth, which I'm about to say, I think I know exactly what it is. The 5th major labyrinth in the Dungeons book are what are known as Fostles. Very cleverly spelled F-O-S-T-L-E, like castle, colossal. Get it? So these are fossils. And I think that there are not people from Oubliette here now, but I think that a lot of their equipment and maybe even information is here. And I'm going to say that it is, because there are some specific rules about investigating a discovery of a fossil that Sybil would need to know before she decides to do it. But again, she's going to do it because she just watched somebody get pulled by spectral chains down here. There's still no immediate view of this person, but she finds the archaeological kind of dig site for this fossil here in the dungeons and sees the equipment that they're using, and it kind of catches her eye as that seems important, right? Like, you wouldn't go to a construction site without a hard hat, and preferably like steel-toed boots, because you don't want to get crushed by anything, right? Similarly here, the fossils are known for their like poisonous air. The air trapped in these ancient rook husks that have become fossils is poisonous to people. So there's almost like a diving mask apparatus that people who are investigating these have to wear. And Sybil sees one. She's like, oh, that's interesting. She flips a little bit through one of the journals to, you know, like any video game, Skyrim or Zelda or Baldur's Gate, you know, when you pick up a book and you read it and you're like, there's got to be something. Maybe this is just me. I read a lot of the books because I'm like, there's going to be an Easter egg or a hint in here. It's like that. admittedly, the rewards from a fossil discovery are not great. We've already said that there have been people from Oubliette here, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the person that we're trying to save. So let's talk about how discovering and investigating a fossil works. It's kind of a push your luck game that your diving apparatus, your air suit, has a limited number of points. It starts with 10 air points, and every floor, quote unquote, that you descend into the fossil is going to cost you 1 point of air. Every floor you get 3 cards that we just flip up, 3 only because that is our exploration score. If we had a character class with a higher exploration score, we'd get to flip more cards, but we only have an exploration score of 3, so we're going to flip 3 cards for every quote unquote floor we investigate of this fossil, and we need to create a set of cards, minimum 4, that will get us certain rewards. If it's 4 of the same suit or a flush, then we get a labyrinth treasure, just 1. If we get 4 of the same number, then we find ingredients to make a healing potion that will heal 1 wound. And if we get 4 straight sequential numbers, we find an ancient weapon specific to this fossil that will give us +4 on all weapon or spade attacks in combat. Now we already have a sweet rook scythe, but technically +4 is better than +3. But again, not why we're here, rescuing a person. So let's talk about how we're going to explore this. Let's think about what the fossil itself looks like. Just to be thematic here, I think that the fossil itself is a similar rook husk to the one we were investigating before we met this person that was pulled away by these spectral chains, and it looks like the corporeal stone and amalgamation of parts that this spectral rook looks like. Maybe this was its body before it went spectral. Now, what does that look like? I couldn't find an oracle or anything like that for rook appearances, because I think it's supposed to just be something you come up with for your own world, your own version of the Roomlands and the Colossal. So I'm going to say that this one, when we see it again, it is fused with the rock of this cavern itself like a fossil would be, but I think what we see is there's almost like a, and I had to Google this term so I don't just know it, a bartizan, which is like an overhanging turret projecting out from the corner of a castle wall, and it functions almost like a rhinoceros horn. And the rest of this rook is this large kind of like corner forward body of a squat small castle that this rook clearly was sort of small and aggressive, probably an offensive body type rook that would ram into things and probably, flip them with this turret horn. Now, this spectral chain is wrapped around that and all of this stuff, but do we see the spectral one? Right now, I think that it's simply Sybil is standing in the archaeological site before entering the fossil itself, which the air is known to be toxic. So she's putting on her apparatus. She looks down at the rookling and says, "Are you going to be okay? Do you breathe this stuff?" And it just kind of flexes its little rookling arm muscles and shakes its head, and she says, "Okay, if you say so." And the two of them are going to begin approaching this fossil. We'll see if the spectral rook itself appears again. So I guess we just get started. We're going to start, I have to make my little note of 10 air that we begin with, and for every floor we're going to -1 air, and for every card above 4 that we end up keeping in our inventory to create our runs or flushes or pairs, if you will, then those will also eventually do -1 to our air when we decide to leave. And if we ever eclipse 10 and we are in negative air, then those are wounds that we're going to take to our exploration and combat scores. So with the air helmet on and backpack or whatever contraption it is, which again, I'm sure Sybil has looked at, inspected, done maintenance on, made sure that it's working properly, she walks in to the first room of this fossil, which I think might be that horn-like turret. So let's flip 3 cards. We have a 7 of diamonds, a 9 of spades, and a jack of spades. So already, we're looking a straight right in the eyes here if we can make this work. I think I'm just going to keep all 3 of those cards, and we're going to flavor this as the claw that we have from our inventor job pack cards, the components we grab from downed rooks and things like that from defeating enemies. This one says that it is a small component that can be used to inscribe marks onto a surface, and it is very sharp. I think that we're going to say that she doesn't want to damage the archaeological site, but I think that Sybil is marking where she's going and maybe taking small little samples along the way. Again, one of the things we might get if we get 4 of the same number is ingredients for a healing potion, despite the toxic air. It does say that healing mushrooms and other things do grow here pretty well, so there's probably plenty of that going around as well. We're going down to the next floor. We get a 3 of clubs, a jack of diamonds, and a queen of diamonds. Okay, I'm going to keep the jack and the queen of diamonds because now we at least have a pair of jacks. It's unlikely we will get all 4 jacks. I am going to get rid of the 3 of clubs. And that brings us down to 8 air already, and we are already over our 4 card minimum, or maximum, in our inventory. So we're going to be taking more air out because of the heaviness of everything we're carrying here. But we're going down to the 3rd room of this fossil. We are still looking for this person. I think that as long as we achieve any of these groups of 4, we're going to say that we find this person. It's just what else we find with them. So let's see. A 5 of hearts, a 6 of diamonds, and a 3 of hearts. Okay, we're going to get rid of the 3 of hearts, and we are going to have an enormous pile of stuff here, because now we have 5, 6, 7. We just need an 8. We'd get up to 9, all that, or a 4, and we'll get our first sequence. We do have 4 diamonds, so we can at the very least find a labyrinth treasure in here. But we're taking 3 more air just in carrying this stuff, and we are down to 7 already, so we don't have much more to go. Let's just keep exploring. We're looking for this person. We're calling out. It's muffled. Sybil is calling out in this air helmet, this diving suit, to investigate these ruins, this fossil. She's calling out. She's tapping on the walls, hoping maybe they can hear it somewhere else. She's looking for spectral chains. She's not finding anything. She's desperate to find this person that presumably this is the only place they could have gone. So she's looking. We flip a 5, a 7, and an ace. Oh no. We are not looking good. I'm going to get rid of all 3 of those cards because we don't need them. We are down to 6. As we are desperate, I think that there's probably a gauge or something similar on this diving apparatus, and Sybil is nervously looking at it. She's doing the very movie trope thing of kind of tapping it with her finger to make sure that the gauge is reading out right, and I think that when she taps it, it does kind of drop just that little bit more, and she's like, I knew it. She can smell the poison in this air. The rookling is trying to help, but they're really kind of stuck down here as well. Let's see. An ace of diamonds, a 5 of diamonds, and a 6 of hearts. Are there any 4s in this? Oh no. Okay, well, at this point I've committed. I'm getting rid of all of those cards. We need to find a way. If we go down to 5 right here, and we decide to leave right now with our 4 diamonds to claim a labyrinth treasure, we would still take 3 more harm, bringing us down to 2. We have 2 more floors. Actually, 1. We have 1 more chance to do this before we would hit 0 air. Oh boy. It's getting desperate. You know what? Just to ramp up the tension, I think that Sybil has picked up the pace. That's why we're throwing away all of these things. She's not taking as much time. She's marking the room she's in. She's making sure she can find her way out. She has stopped taking her time to look through everything she's finding in the ruins of this fossil. She's understanding now why these archaeological sites, these fossils, are difficult to navigate, especially timely. So she's going to go 1 more time. She taps, she scrapes, she calls, and maybe she hears a rasp. We get a queen of clubs, a 10 of diamonds, and a 4 of hearts. We finally got it. I have 5 cards left in the deck before I needed to shuffle again. That is going to give us a 4, 5, 6, 7. And you know what? Oh, I can't. I was going to say I could do another one if I did 4 diamonds, but I can't. Plus, I shouldn't carry more anyway. So I'm going to call it there. And we have our sequence of 4 with 4 additional cards. So we are at 5. That's going to bring us down to 1 air remaining in our diving suit for the return trip up. But before we get to the return trip up, we are going to talk about this person that we find here. As Sybil is rushing through the Fostle to find this person that she saw pulled away from another area of the dungeons, she turns into a large room and hears the weak cough of somebody. She rushes forward, and sure enough, it's the person that she barely got to speak to before they were pulled away. This time, the spectral chain is attached to them, but it is now pinned into the ground of the Fostle by this strange long arm of a weapon. It almost looks like a long spear or something similar, except the tip that is going through one of the chains and anchoring this spectral chain to this person is somehow both glowing and translucent and wispy and see-through, much like the spectral rook itself. Sybil rushes forward to this person, laying here on the ground, coughing, breathing raspy, barely ragged breaths coming in and out, very thready pulse, and she puts her hand to the chest of this individual, who, upon the first close examination of this person, she sees that they are scarred. They are clearly somebody who has been through a lot, and when she puts her hand on their chest, they open their eyes and look at her nervously, suspiciously, but then recognize her. Unsure of what to do, Sybil is going to try and pull this weapon that is pinning the chain to the ground, and she's going to yank it up. And when she does, not only is the chain free, but it doesn't mean that the person is free. So she looks at this and takes a large swing and hits the chain, and sure enough, whatever it is made out of can interact with this spectral chain, and it cuts this person free. In doing so, the spectral chains that are connected to this person disappear from the end that they were restraining them to this place. The rest of the chain, however, kind of flails about like it's alive, and the next thing we know, this spectral rook is about to come back, maybe to chase Sybil and this stranger out of the Fostle. So I've flipped a couple of cards on the NPC Oracle table to see that they were scarred and suspicious. We will get their name when they can speak, and I think I'm going to do something maybe ill-advised here, which is that Sybil is going to take off the diving helmet, this air apparatus that the archaeologists use here in the Fostle, and she's going to put it on this stranger, and she's going to put their arm up over her shoulder, heft them up, and they're going to begin getting out of here. Given everything, we're going to just say that Sybil is going to take 4 wounds from this extreme physical exertion, breathing in the poison of this Fostle. We're going to take away 3 from her combat score and 1 from her exploration score, leaving her at 2 exploration, 1 combat. As the pair and the rookling clamber out of this Fostle and back out into the archaeological dig site, they're both coughing. The other person pulls the helmet off and gasps in fresh air for the first time since they were pulled into this Fostle, and it's a few minutes before either of them bother to look at the other and speak. They're catching their breath, throats are sore, it is uncomfortable, and they look at one another, and this person kind of rasps out, I owe you my life. My name is Sorik. I am an archaeologist here. We abandoned this site, but I couldn't let go. Look where it got me. Sybil looks and says, "Don't talk right now. You need your rest. I'm going to do something. I'm going to get you back to Oubliette. Just give me a moment to catch my breath." And in that moment, the spectral rook rises from the fossil husk of its former corporeal body, standing forward, head down with that turret almost pointed at our group of explorers down here in the dungeon. And Sybil stands up, wobbling on her feet, stands between this spectral rook and the rookling and this poor, hurt archaeologist. And she says, "No one's here. It's all yours. We won't take anything else, please." And she even lays down the spectral spear that she used to cut the chain and says, We don't want anything from you, please." She stands there, and surprisingly to everyone, the spectral rook does not charge. It does not lash out with chains. It does not do anything. As Sybil is wondering why it's not just attacking, the Whisper Stone, the unique rookstone that she found in the cistern, floats almost like it's in water from around her neck and floats there. She catches the enormous spectral rook almost following the path of its movements, and she slowly, while facing this spectral rook, stands, helps the others up, and begins walking backwards towards the vertical shaft that this person was pulled down and that she built her pulley system into. She tells the rookling to bring this person up and then send it back down. The whole time, it's just a very tense standoff between Sybil and the spectral rook. It grabs its own chain and pulls it tight, and she sees that it goes further into the dungeons, but that it too is tethered here. I'm going to probably do something silly here. Sybil wonders if it's trying to tell her something about the chains themselves. So she takes a few steps forward, knowing that the rookling and Sorik, the archaeologist, are on their way up towards safety. She walks forward towards the spectral rook. It's not approaching her or aggressively posturing or anything. And she steps forward and she reaches down towards that spear again. It lets her, and she picks it up. She asks, Do you want me to try? Cut your chains?" It bristles and moves. You can hear the groaning of the stone, even in its spectral form. It kind of takes on this echoey, reverby, it's almost like a decibel or a frequency just out of human hearing capabilities. And she steps forward, and she's going to take a swing at it. I'm going to flip a oracle card to just see if it works. 7 of Hearts is a flat no. It bangs off of this, and I think that as opposed to a regular weapon hitting stone, which would hit and you might feel that pain in your hands from the reverberations, the recoil or whatever, this feels very different. The spectral blade of this spear or polearm or whatever it may be against the incredibly enormous spectral chains holding this rook to wherever. I think that it doesn't work, but it still looks like it goes through, and it almost is like impossibly cold, and it almost drains so much from Sybil that she falls to her knees and needs a good amount of time to just catch up to anything. I think that she kind of just falls and goes into the fetal position and is huddling for a warmth that she just doesn't feel. It has just been sapped out of her. And she pushes herself up on her knuckles, back to her knees, looks at the spear, looks at the rook. "I don't know what to do, but if I see you again or I see any like you, believe me, I will follow these chains. I will break these chains. And she backs away again. The spectral rook disappears into somewhere else, maybe into the fossil itself, just nestles into its old body as the bucket drops, and Sybil ascends back to the tunnels where she'd been walking out of Oubliette, and when she reaches the top, the rookling and Sorek are standing there waiting for her. They're not far from Oubliette. It could be an easy walk back. But I think that the rookling holds its arms out, and I forgot to do this. Technically, a fossil is a labyrinth. It's in the major labyrinth section, and I do have the rare Shard of Seeking, which says for every spade in a labyrinth that you flip, you get +1 shard. So I have 3 additional shards that it has shown me, and additionally, I forgot the whole point of this rookstone key, which would have allowed an extra room in a labyrinth to find a unique rookstone, which is such a bummer because that was kind of why I did it, but I think it's too late to retcon that now. So instead of trekking back, especially as wounded as Sybil and Sorek are, Sybil is going to pull out her waypoint stone, which is one of the very expensive treasures that she bought from the merchant Corey, and she is going to fast travel everyone back to Garden in Oubliette, the headquarters of the Clan of Cups. Not gonna lie, this item kind of feels like cheating because fast travel is wild, but given different games and dungeons, I can see this being an incredibly cool item to kind of scatter waypoint stones all over the place. I've been replaying Tears of the Kingdom recently, very much like shrine fast travel stuff. However, most importantly is that arriving in Garden, headquarters of the Clan of Cups, Sorek and Sybil will be given the medical treatment that they need after this delve of a fossil and the poison that has permeated their bodies from breathing it in separately. And then let's just go to the Cups page again and go to the second visit. It says here that when you visit a second time to deliver however many more cups you found, Lisette will run up to you excited to see you. I don't think that's how it happens. I think that instead we arrive here coughing, sickly, and in need of help. I think that she takes the time to treat Sybil and Sorek. I'm going to say, as an archaeologist, Sorek must be a member of the Clan of Keys. So this is going to be a pretty big bargaining chip for them, or an IOU kind of thing. But she takes the time. I think we get a downtime sort of scene here. Right after Sybil left, maybe a day later, she returns infected with this poison from a fossil, having rescued an archaeologist with tales of a spectral rook. I think that rumors begin to spread about Sybil, this surface roomlander who is bringing these things to Oubliette. There's a different number of rumors, some positive, some negative. Some are she's bringing spectral rooks towards Oubliette. There's others who are saying this roomlander is, helping people, which is not something that necessarily happens outside of the Clan of Cups down here. I don't think it's quite so cutthroat, but again, she's just an outsider who's doing big things. Over the days that it takes the poison to work its way out of their systems, Sybil and Sorek are treated by Lisette. She shows Garden and how peaceful and safe it is, how proud she is of the dormitories and the work that her and the other members of the Clan of Cups do, the passion to help people. In talking about the poison one day, she describes to Sybil of the rarest cup in the dungeons. It is ancient, it is so powerful. It is the goblet of healing. After years, she believes she knows the labyrinth that it is in, but it is very challenging to reach. It would be too much to ask Sybil to, but before she could even stop, Sybil puts her hand on Lisette's and says, "I'll do it. I'll go." I do need to find my way to the surface, but honestly, the life I thought I was missing back up there is my shop, and it's my life's work, and it's what I do, but down here it's everything I've seen, the things I've found that I never thought I would in my life. I'd given up hope for, almost. On the surface, it's almost like things are possible down here that aren't up there. And the people... I'm not a people person, Lisette, okay? I'm not exactly a big fan of everybody I've met down here. And she shoots Sorek a look, and she thinks of Torug, and she says, look, you're all capable, but you're down here in a dangerous place, and if this old lady can help, just tell me where to go. And Lisette smiles and says, I'll tell you where it is. We'll get you a map, but truly, Sybil, don't go looking for the Goblet of Healing on a suicide mission. It kind of defeats the purpose. Only if you feel you truly, truly want to. And Sybil smiles and goes, we'll see. The only other thing I want to do in the city of Oubliette, we don't have other labyrinth treasures to trade in, except for one key and the 3 shards that our little rookling friend found thanks to our shard of seeking. So we'll go to the clan of shards, or the cult of shards, and on the second visit we will give our 3 shards to the person at the kiosk, which will give us 3 standard treasures, and nothing else changes. But again, we get a look from that person as we continue to do work with the cult, which is, avoided by most other people. Sybil does not show any hesitation whatsoever. She likes their standoffishness. She likes their strictly business. And I think she even lets the rookling this time she goes like, all right, put him up there. And it lifts its little ice hands and puts him on the little counter. And the shard person very silently just nods and passes over 3 treasures, 3 coins, whatever's used in Oubliette. And then Sybil says, all right, one more stop, but then we're getting back out there. And she heads towards the clan of keys. When she arrives, she plans on just handing over the key for a treasure and moving on, but before she can, she is cut off by Telena, leader of the clan of keys. She rushes forward. They're both adventurous types, they're both strong women, and I think that she runs over and she's just like, there she is, and she puts her hand on Sybil's shoulder and kind of squeezes, and she says, I owe you a lot for saving one of my best archaeologists, And Sorek kind of sheepishly waves from a table nearby, and everybody holds up their tankards of whatever they're drinking and cheers for Sybil, and she kind of embarrassingly waves her hand. The Clan of Keys is a very happy place right now, and Telena is happy to bring Sybil all over the place and show her what's going on. She introduces her to people from the clan, explains what they do a little bit more, and even shows Sybil the mount garage with all manner of strange vehicles that she says, if you ever want to borrow one, I could be persuaded. And Sybil actually looks at them and just goes, these are amazing. These are so much different than the ones we have on the surface. And she's going to go into nerd mode about her passion, which is she's a rooksmith. She builds mounts on the surface, but because of the need for how things work in the dungeons, these ones are different. There are ones like Telena's, which are like wheel-based and have like a sort of gyroscope thing where you can sit on it and the wheel will attach to whatever surface and go around. There are other ones that are like spider-legged. There are all these really cool things, and I think that Sybil and Telena bond a little bit more. And I think that Sybil just starts to see Telena as someone, not that she could teach a lot to, but she could spend a lot of time around trading secrets and tips and things like that. A kindred spirit, if you will. And we're just going to close out this episode flipping 3 cards to do a quick exploration of the city of Oubliette, which we have quick traveled back to, saving the life of Sorek, the archaeologist, member of the Clan of Keys. I think that Telena and Sybil close down the tavern at the Clan of Keys headquarters, and they're out late. And Telena probably offers a place for Sybil to crash, but she says, no, and no offense, for this, but I've set up a little thing back at Garden, so I'm just gonna go back. She leaves and wanders the city, which again, there's no night, there's no morning, there's no day, there's no cycle like that. So she leaves, and it's like any other time in the city of Oubliette. She's tired. She's had a long day, recovering still from all of this, but let's see what happens on her way back. A 6 of diamonds, a queen of hearts, and a 3 of diamonds. So 3 red cards, which are organic things like people and creatures, and the ones we got were a street vendor, an NPC interaction, and a jack, queen, or king can just be used to choose any one of these prompts. So let's see what our options are and weave together a little something before we end this session. As Sybil is walking through the city of Oubliette, she comes across an NPC. They are a street vendor. Let's flip 2 cards to see who they are. A king of diamonds and a 4 of spades. So we can choose either the name Forks, who is an engineer working with rook parts to build all manner of machines. Very fitting, we've had a lot of that. Or Zorn, who is a traveling monk, a bastion on a peaceful mission. Ooh. As much as Forks the engineer is better, I think that Zorn the traveling monk is even more fun. Yeah, I think this is great. I think that we actually see Zorn, this bastion monk on a mission, dealing with the street vendor. They are explaining that they don't have anything to trade for the goods that they require to continue their journey, exploring, finding what it is they need to find. And this street vendor is very impatient with Zorn, and also kind of giving them a little bit of flack for being a bastion, looking at them suspiciously, wondering if they're going to be trouble or not. And I think that this is probably the first time, let's flip a card. Is this the first time that Sybil has seen a bastion? She's from the city of Parapet, so yeah, a 9 is just a flat no. So she has seen a bastion before, and she walks up to this vendor and explains, this person just needs a little bit of help. Is that hard to give this person a little bit of help? And she's had a long day, she's had a good day, and seeing this is kind of ruining it. So she goes up a little aggressive, and she pulls out some treasures, and she trades and says, give the bastion what it needs. And Zorn says, I do not need your charity. And she says, it's not that. I insist. After this, the monk thanks Sybil for her kindness, and they walk together for a moment. And I am going to, with the Queen of Hearts that we got, which allows us to choose any prompt from the table, say that it is the 3 of Hearts, which says calling. You come across someone who is a key to your calling. As a reminder, Sybil's calling is that she was always told stories of rookstones. Rookstones that were unique and beyond the usual rumble, lightning, ice available everywhere on the surface in the Roomlands. And now she's already found one in the Whisperstone, which has allowed her to seemingly face off and become non-threatening to spectral rooks. And this traveling monk bastion is going to have something key to Sybil understanding more about rare, unique rookstones. And I'm going to flip 3 cards and see if anything comes of the story generator, and maybe we can end on a nice cliffhanger. An ace of diamonds, an ace of clubs, and a 4 of diamonds. I will save the results of that until next time, but as Zorn, the Bastion, and Sybil are walking back towards Garden, the conversation evolves naturally until talk of Sybil's life on the surface and the stories that she was told, and all of these things are coming out, and she's sharing with Zorn, this Bastion, this monk. She mentions how she has recently discovered unique rookstones and it is now her life's goal to bring them to the surface and let the world know that there is still wonder out there. And Zorn stops walking, causes Sybil to turn and look and make sure everything's okay, and he looks at her with his bastion rook-like eyes and simply says, "Have you ever heard of a rookling forge?" And that's where we're going to end this episode. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Colossal Dungeons here on the Rene Plays Games podcast feed. I hope that you are enjoying it, and if you do, and you like what I'm doing here, consider following me on social medias where I'm pretty quiet, but available and always checking things, trying my best to just keep up with posts and random stuff. If you want to talk to me more directly, you can always email me at reneplaysgamespod@gmail.com or join the DMs After Dark Discord. Small, growing, fun, nerdy. It's all the kind and fun things that, we look for in a community. So come join and hang out. And other than that, if you want to be on an episode of Perspective Checks next year, reach out to me. Let's try and schedule something. And then the usual, rate and review on your podcatcher of choice so the algorithm funnels me towards more nerdy people. And hopefully they enjoy my silly solo storytelling stuff. And yeah, if you feel absurdly generous, there's a Ko-fi page where you can donate monthly or one time just to help cover the cost of podcast hosting and everything else. So thank you so much for listening, and until next time, don't hesitate to take off your breathing apparatus to save someone else.